Amazing episode of Sales Chatter this morning. Jeff and I were deciding, hey, do we do this podcast an hour late or do we do it an hour early this morning with everybody with the daylight savings time? So, let's get to it, Jeff.
Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
It's awesome. I can't think about it.
You know what I'm thinking is this hilarious because nobody's checked in yet. I wonder if the setting the clocks back screws some people up. I mean, Lisa's not on.
Well, I know Lisa's on vacation right now. Her and Chad, I believe they're in Hawaii selling their anniversary. So congratulations.
Oh, is she? Oh, that's great.
They're celebrating. Yeah, so it's awesome kind of see. Because they sent over a couple of pictures on the weekend. Good morning, Daman. I know Daman, he liked the Starbucks comment that we made on Friday. So that was pretty awesome. Jeff, what did you get to up on this weekend, my friend?
Oh, well, first and foremost, you know that I started my diet, so I cut back tremendously. I'm happy to say, and I'm not an alcoholic, I have to say that, but I didn't have one beer this whole weekend, which was pretty good. I just stuck by the old wine and dine. That's what I did this weekend, and went to a nice restaurant. I like changing it up on the weekends. I don't like going to the same places all the time, so we tried this restaurant. I had no idea what we were going to get. Man, this place is one of my top 10s in my life. It was unbelievable. So, of course, I got feathers in my cap because I'm the one that pretty much selected it for my wife and myself. So, it was awesome. How about you, man?
I'm glad that you went to a new restaurant. You tried it out. I assume that maybe it'll be like one of the next meetings for the Luminaries Association.
Oh, no. That was
it's too good.
It was up in the Catskills. I don't think so.
It was awesome. I had a great weekend. Today's actually my wife's birthday, so we're going to be celebrating after we kind of get off this podcast. And just having some fun. And you're right, just kind of switching up the routine and doing different things. Jeff, it's so weird because when you see in movies, like they have like those small time like diners, and a guy walks into a diner and he's like, "I'll have the regular," and then you're like, "Okay, I want to be that guy one day." I want to go into a restaurant that we always go to, and then they're like, "The regular?" Yes, get me the regular.
What is the regular? That's a pretty good challenge. Go into any restaurant and just say to the waitress, "I'll take the regular," and you have no idea what it is. I think that would be pretty cool. Just say,
we should blog that. That's a new social media website that we should. That would actually be pretty funny to kind of get the blank stares and things like that. So, I know that we had the hour difference. I know you were kind of mentioning off air that. Yeah, well, tell us what kind of your thoughts on the extra hour.
Yeah, something for me, that hour pushback means nothing to me, and I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, I lose an hour of sleep," or this or that. It affects them, emotionally. For me, it doesn't. We're talking about an hour reset. I'm going to wake up in the morning smiling, laughing, and my day's going to be the way that I want it to be, whether it's an hour shorter or an hour longer. I think it's a mindset. I think it's a mindset of the power of positivity, removing the negativity, the toxicity, shrinking your inner circle, and just having a damn good day. I think that's what it's all about. I don't understand the seasonal depression that I read about all the time, but that's me. I do understand it, so I don't want to sound that I'm not aware of these kind of things, but man, it's just an hour reset. It really is. It doesn't affect me at all. How about you, man? What does it do to you?
The only way that I kind of noticed it was my sleep pattern yesterday. Just kind of waking up and noticing like, hey, like we got up a lot earlier than we normally did, and just kind of like that fatigue throughout the day. But then, like you said, you're able to kind of push back and kind of get through it. Yesterday I didn't do any work at all, so yeah, with it being Sunday, I just kind of like took a look at my calendar and I kind of maybe worked for like 30 minutes. So more of it was kind of doing errands and doing family things, right? So, but like I know like when it was like 4 o'clock, like I remember I was looking at my wife and I was like, it feels like 9 o'clock, and just because like with the darkness and all that stuff, right? So even for me, it's the one thing that I've kind of loved about getting the extra hour. I hate walking my dogs in the dark. Like I refuse to do it. And just having that extra hour, I'm able to walk them, in with the sunlight and things like that, and just kind of listen to a podcast. I've been a big fan of like listening to Jay Shetty and Ed Milet recently, and actually, you know what? I want to kind of get your thoughts on this because on the last Jay Shetty show that I was listening to yesterday, he had a guest. And Jeff, we all are about, like, some of us are like writing goals down and like, okay, I want to get to this monetary goal, I want to get to this family goal and things like that. And one thing that the person said was that he writes down what he's afraid of and he makes an action plan towards it. So he said he hates public speaking, so he committed himself to a year of going to Toastmasters. He said that he sucks at dancing, but he had his wedding coming up. He committed 3 months going to salsa dancing every week. And I just thought about that, right? Because I know like a lot of our sales reps, we're kind of scared of, like, let's say cold calls or sending that email. We're kind of always scared about the unknown, I guess. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on that. Like, how did you, I know not now, but what is kind of like the last time like you were at an unknown situation, and what did you kind of tell yourself to kind of get out of it?
It's funny. It's right here. It's literally right here because, the story about Dan and I, and then he gave me an opportunity to, to co-host and also come on this show every single day under really bad circumstances. I was hesitant. I didn't know how things were going to go because, I had Blindside Alley. I didn't find the time or anything, but it was a great learning lesson for me. I'm not afraid to do this every morning. I love it. I love helping people and stuff like that. But back then I was like, I have no idea how the hell this is going to go. I had absolutely no idea. But what I found out is that, yes, I have the time. I'm not afraid of doing this on any freaking podcast now. I don't think it was afraid. Let me rephrase that. I wasn't confident. I wasn't confident how or what or how it would just turn out, and I think it turned out pretty well. We get along great, and it's been a lot of fun and stuff like that. And I definitely want to continue doing this kind of stuff wherever, whatever show that I'm on and stuff like that. I think it's great, man. That was my biggest one, though. It really was.
No, and that's awesome to hear because you committed to it, like you're kind of forced by fire, right? Like you had to
Well,
get
no, I
it.
admit, I'm the person that if I say I'm going to do something, it's like in business or in my personal life. If I commit and say I'm going to do something, it's not talk. It's not all talk. It's all action, and I'll do that. That's just my personality. So if I'm diving in, I'm diving in deep. That's the only way I know how to do things. So.
And it's like the best way to kind of go into, because like one thing I kind of really been, especially coming on the show, is like integrity. We can all talk about it, and for me, integrity looks like doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? And even with you that you kind of just mentioned, you jump right in and you gave your word, and I think that's extremely important, right? What kind of lessons have you kind of learned about have you learned anything about yourself like while doing this podcast?
That I can do the things that I didn't think I could do. I mean, that's just it. Some people have just limitations on their ability because they let their emotions or their feelings take control of them and not really allow them to do it. But I don't want to go through life, and I've had this saying for a long time, but only if I shoulda, coulda, I would have tried it, but I never did, so I'll never know what it's like. I don't want those feelings. I want to know what it's like, so if I'm in a position, risk is everything. The risk and reward factor. Yes, you got to weigh out your risk and see what that reward would be. But along with risk, you have to be able and willing to lose something. You don't know what that something is going to be because you're swimming in a lake of unknown waters. You don't know. You have an idea, but you don't know. So as long as you have that in your head, that there's a strong possibility you could lose everything or you could gain everything that you ever wanted. So you have to have that inner belief in yourself and that confidence to go ahead and move forward and do it at a strategic pace. And what I mean by that is don't try to get everything done like that, because it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Yeah.
It's awesome to think about because even on the podcast I was listening to yesterday, Jay Shetty kind of revealed like, he when he went full into making podcasts and now he's the number one health podcast in the world.
It's awesome.
He only had like 2 months. He's telling the viewers that he only had 2 months worth of bills and groceries left in his bank, and that's when he was like, I've got to kind of make this happen, right? And that's what a lot of things like. I love what you said about that you might lose something, you might sacrifice, but at the end of the day, because everybody wants to take the easy route, right? Like if I was to tell you that, hey, you give me $1,000, you'll get $100 interest every year, or you can give me that same $1,000 and then you could potentially get like 15 to 20% dividends back if you play in the stock market, right? And you just
Right.
kind of got to weigh out your options and know what the right risk is. No one's everybody telling to like risk your house, like and I always go in with a plan, right, Jeff? I think no one's just gonna wake up one morning and be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna become an agent. I'm gonna own a business, but you've never closed a customer, you've never talked to a carrier, you're never doing those things. So you set yourself up for
You're in trouble.
success on that, right? You're just completely blind.
Yeah, really. Yeah, talking about the blind leading the blind, man. Oh my God, man. But if you know what, if you did that, let's just think of the another mindset. Let's just say that you wanted to dabble in something that you had no idea about. You just heard about it, and people were talking that this is so great. You gotta try this and everything, and you're just like one of those people that say, you know what, I'm gonna dive into that hot kettle, and some people, they're able to get through it, and other people, worst mistake they ever did in their whole entire life. I mean, I think it has to do with your confidence level as you for yourself, your personality. I think your personality drives everything in your life. If you have that personality to be successful in anything that you go into, well, you're going to go in with that mindset and you're probably going to knock it out, but if you're like, I don't know, it's going to be very difficult for you. It will be very, very difficult for you.
Well, you kind of said it too, right? Like, you set up the environment, right? And you got to kind of like, hey, if you're starting something brand new, I'm just a big believer. Like, I wipe down my desk, I clean my desk, I clean my area every single day, just because I know when I come into my office, I want to have that clean. Like, I don't want to have to worry about, oh
Yes.
my God, that stack of papers on the side. It can happen
The
throughout the
OCD
day.
syndrome. The OCD.
Exactly. Exactly. Like I'm a big fan of that. And it's just kind of setting up yourself. And you kind of mentioned too, like if you're gonna dive yourself into something new, there's so many resources out there, go get a mentor or see how it is. Like I'll tell you this, Jeff, because I said I want to kind of do a little bit more YouTube and things like that, I've been dabbling into video editing, and there's so much, it's so scary. Like if I was to open up Adobe Premiere, which is the top video editing software, I wouldn't know what to do. Like honestly, I wouldn't know what to do.
I mean, the same thing. I was just looking at that too, and Dan was the one that told me about it because I'm working on different things. And I'm like, man, I have no idea what the hell I'm going to be doing with this. I mean, literally, but it's just like anything else. If you go and take something, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So read. You have to play with it. And then you'll be like, wow, I didn't know that did that. Like you're like Audible, right? You like to listen to things and stuff like that and learn that way. I'm the same thing. The one thing that I hate doing is watching people do it and showing me how it's done. I'm like, F that, man. Let me sit down there and let me make those mistakes. I want to learn that way by doing it, not watching it. You don't learn anything that way.
So the next time I have to buy, my wife and I have to buy IKEA furniture, we're just going to send it to you to build it. And because those instructions.
You know what? That's really funny that you say that, but I never read directions. I never do. I'm able to put anything together. I mean, I've been able to do that. It was like when I was young, we had erector sets. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but you could build cranes and all different kinds of things. And it was a process of elimination. Oh, this doesn't fit like this. Oh, let me try this piece. And next thing you know, you start building something, and then you add to it, and then you add, and the building gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like anything else. I hate directions. I never, ever look at them.
And I like that you said that because like what you're saying right now, it actually reminds me of my dad, because my dad is exactly the same way. He's able to figure things out, and I'm like, for me, and maybe there's just a disconnect between like the generations, because one thing I was listening to, Jeff, is that with the emergence of social media, with our cell phones, with everything, tablets, all that fun stuff, some people have kind of, and I maybe me too, but we've kind of lacked the ability to be bored and let our
Mhm.
mind wander. Just imagine you go to a doctor's office maybe 10, 15 years ago. You're there, maybe you'll read those stupid, not stupid, those magazines on the, like, they're covered in germs and all that stuff, or you just wait or have a conversation, or just wait and let your mind wander until they call your name. But now you
Yeah.
go kind of the same roles reversed, right? You're on your phone, checking out social media, checking out everything
Yep.
like that. And Maggie brings up a great point here, kind of saying, like, at the same time, skills are teachable. Attitude is everything, whether you can or you can't. You're right. It's the steps you take. And I like
Yep.
that, because when it comes to sales, Jeff, and like operations, everything like that, the one thing I always kind of tell you, everyone always kind of, when I kind of meet people, they're like, "Oh, like, were you born to do this? Like, oh, you have that ability to talk to people." And I was like, "No, I feared sales. I did not like sales at all, and just the operations." But I think like everything is teachable. I don't think anybody, like, I hate the word like God given talents or anything like that. I think anybody, you what is it? Practice beats talent when hard work doesn't work or something like that, right? So,
Yeah, but
um,
some people do, though, Ryan. Some people do have that ability to do that. They're born with the skill. And the funny thing about it, they don't know that skill exists until one day they happen to tap into it. And it's like, maybe this is what I was supposed to do. You never knew it. You
yeah.
never knew you had that capability of doing something. It's just like, that's why in this life you should try everything that you always wanted to try, and then try something that you never wanted to try. And sometimes those are the biggest lessons that you've ever learned, that you like, I didn't know I was going to like this, but I love it. One of
Yeah.
those kind of things. So
It's
we'll
it's
never know.
funny. It's funny you bring that up, because like I was like a quick story about that. Like, my one of my ex-girlfriends, she was big into salsa dancing, and while we were together and she was doing all, like, she was going to class and all that stuff, like, I was like, I never paid attention to it, because I'm like, in my mindset I was like, yo, that's lame. I would never want to do that. And then she brought me out one night, and I was like, oh my god, this is cool. And then it got to a point that I took lessons, Jeff, and I actually
You
competed.
won your
I
first
competed.
championship, right?
I didn't compete for a championship, but funny enough, I actually taught it. I taught it for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
so
taught,
cool, man.
and you're so right by saying that. I would love to kind of know, like, what is something that you've kind of, I know you got your diet on track now, so I'm so happy that you do that. Like you said, you're not an alcoholic. You got into the wine, but that's you making the decision that I'm not going to continue to do with that. I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you a great example. So, uh, when I was young, um, I always wanted to be different than somebody else. Everybody was riding bicycles and choppers and stuff like that. So I said to myself, you know what? I went into a bicycle shop and I was with my mom, and I saw a unicycle that was on the wall. And I looked at my mom and I said, she goes, so which 10 speed do you want?
And as Jeff having a little bit of technical difficulties bringing him back here, it's really important. Like, as kind of Scott kind of mentions here, like, good morning, happy Monday. An extra hour, extra energy, new Monday, let's get it. That's the positivity that you need. That's just so much that we get back. And adding Jeff back here, the one thing that you definitely do have to change. Maybe you should use that extra hour that we got to get the Geek Squad in there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I bought this unicycle, and it went from like a 3 foot unicycle up to a 5, up to a 10 foot unicycle. And I literally ended up in the hospital many, many times, cracking my head, falling down all the time. And, it's like climbing back up in the saddle and doing it. And I used to do my paper route on my unicycle. I drove it in my high school, all over the hallway, elevators, downstairs. I could do anything. And then I got the opportunity to try out for the first unicycle professional basketball team troop in Madison Square Garden when I was 16 years old. I didn't make it, but because of everything that I did, I had the opportunity to go and do that. And I can still get on a bicycle right now, 10 speed, sit on the handlebars backwards and ride it without any hands on it backwards. So I wouldn't have been able to do that. I didn't know I was supposed to go and do that kind of stuff. But until you try something and you say, I want to do something different, I want to address something, you're never going to know it until you do it. And then once you succeed, man, it sticks with you. And you just carry that. And that skill gets bigger and better than anybody else that's out there to a certain extent.
You just you snowball it. And the one thing I love about like our society these days, right? Like you can be a completely rookie or amateur in anything, and then you really give that time craft. So whatever it is, Jeff, it could be personal or professional, and then eventually one day, like you'll be able to like teach people about it. And if you want to go down the
Exactly.
monetization thing, or you want to be a consultant or anything like that, but there's just so much resources and skills. But the one thing too is, and Jeff, you're gonna agree with this, is you can't fake it. If you're gonna go in, go all in.
You cannot fake it. And just like there was a lot of pain and agony falling off that unicycle in this industry, there's a lot of pain and agony. But if you push through it and you learn and you try to understand and then create your own little things that are better than other people, it's wonderful. It's fantastic, and you get to like something even more and more as you learn. It's every day in the industry of supply chain logistics. You have to learn because it changes so drastically, but you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. Just like I put into it. If I happen to say, "Oh, I hurt myself so bad, I'm not going to get back in the saddle and do it," I would never have done it. Just like this industry, you have to be willing to sacrifice and dig in deep.
And I think the one thing that helped me was like, just understanding that everything that I do, every skill is like a muscle. So it always has to get worked on. You'll just never forget it. Like I'm pretty sure if you were to go grab a unicycle right now, like, hey, maybe
I
that
couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I'll
I,
see.
I,
Oh, really?
I could not do it. I can tell you that right now. Even if somebody paid me $1 million, I couldn't do it because I've been out of that for 30, 40 years now. So no. But
Hey,
if
man.
someone,
Yeah.
if
I feel
someone
like you're
bets
putting it
me
into the universe now. Santa's gonna bring you a unicycle for Christmas. So
no, no. The thing is, if somebody bets me $100,000 to ride a bicycle backwards sitting on the handlebars, that money's in the bank.
see, there we go. And Maggie brings up a great thing here, saying, sometimes that people who are born with the talent don't have the right attitude. They don't have the determination when they hit a wall, they cave. That's why I see attitude is everything. You have to know you can. And, you look at sports athletes, right? There's so many guys, like you look at LeBron James, everyone was going to say, hey, he's born with it, like that. To an extent, like genetics, you can't teach you, or you can't learn genetics, right? If you're gonna be 6'8", you're gonna be 6'8". I'm 5'4". I'm never gonna drive to like want to be a basketball player. But it's those skills, and Dan's brought it up because I brought it up to him, where LeBron James spends like $5 million on himself every year,
Yes.
with training, his nutrition, all that stuff. And I think he's like 34, and that's like the tail end of basketball. To us, it's young, right? But that's the tail end of an NBA career. And you just got to keep on investing in yourself. Jeff, like you said, like our industry changes so much. So
Does.
you could start with like things like FreightWaves or DAT and look into those things, but then kind of look into it more. There's so much resources on LinkedIn. I've learned a lot. I know you definitely have learned a lot too, just following amazing people.
Yes.
And then kind of go from there. But Jeff, you kind of mentioned that where you're always going to kind of keep working on yourself and kind of build up for supply chain. Is there any kind of focus that anything you kind of came across on the weekend that you're like, maybe I'll think about this going forward?
I'll be honest, I didn't. On the weekends, I tried to separate my business from my personal life, and I really didn't. It's more like when I first wake up in the morning. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think about that, but they're only thoughts. They're not written on paper or anything like that. And then when it comes to the work week, unless I'm called over the weekend, right? I mean, because we're in that business. So if we happen to get called over the weekend, we're going to jump right into the fire, right?
Yeah.
But if it doesn't happen, when you have that separation, which everybody should do out there, that's my advice. Just you can think. You can think in the shower. You think. When you're sleeping, your mind's wandering. But it's what you do on Monday mornings, like the Monday morning quarterback, right? You're gonna get up, and then you're gonna start writing out your plays, and you're putting it on paper. Now, whether or not some of them come to fruition, we don't know, but they're ideas, and we can always come back to those ideas when they're written down, right? Because you can see them, because we're thinking so much. Sometimes some of the best ideas that we think of, we never write down, and they're forgotten. They're gone,
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to write those things down when they happen to pop up. You don't have to sit there and think of them for hours on end over the weekend, but just it's a quick jot, and that's it, and move on.
and just move on. And I like what you said that because we have the resources, right? If you're not around, like I have a book right by my nightstand for that reason. Thoughts that come up, let me just jot it down. And if I'm not around that, like I've got my iPhone, I'll go in the notes tab and just write a little quick notes. And I'm a bullet point kind of guy. Like I don't like to kind of get into like a paragraph or anything like that. I'll just
Oh
write
no, no,
two
me
three
too.
things, and then it's a trigger, right? It's a trigger from there. And as DJ kind of mentions here, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I truly believe that for everything in life. And it's something that you got to kind of prioritize what's important to you, right? Because the one thing that Jeff, I've been changing on my diet too, and a lot of nutritionists are kind of saying as well, like if you're gonna eat food that you're gonna enjoy eating, if you got to dread, if you hate salad and you're gonna dread eating that salad every day, it does nothing for you. You might lose the weight and stuff like that, but you don't care about it. Like for me personally, like I buy spring mix, like the spring mix every Sunday, and it just stays completely unsealed because I don't like salad. But hey, you give me some broccoli with
I
some
eat that all
garlic.
the time, man.
See,
Love salad. I love salad, man. Absolutely.
and it's
I
just like
eat all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely a carnivore, so I love steak. Didn't have that this weekend. That's a first for me because I'm always eating that. I mean, I'm tearing it down. And another good thing that I did is that I'm purchasing an under the desk treadmill. It's a folding treadmill, so I can sit there. I'm going to raise my desk up and I'm going to walk maybe 10 miles a day while I'm working. I mean, look, I'm sitting here. I could be doing something and still be able to use my arms and my fingers. So that's another thought I had over the weekend. I was like, you know what? I need to do this because, like I said, when I get those goals in my mind, man, full steam ahead, brother. I'm going to be doing this. Absolutely.
And I love that mindset change because a lot of people can learn from that. Even for me, like the gym, like I can, if I was to turn the camera and open up my front door, you'll see the gym. Like there's a gym literally within 2 minutes walk of my house. So you're making that commitment, and a lot of people that I kind of follow, like Dan Go was kind of saying like, make your health a non-negotiable. How many times do we negotiate with ourselves? Like, maybe I'll eat this, like, I'll have this burger and like, I'll go to the gym later and work out. But it's like, these are non-negotiables that you should have as we kind of go in. And actually, funny enough, my in-laws, they both have like birthdays together and they turned 70 yesterday. And if you look at them, they look like they're 40, and it's just, they prioritize their health, and family time and things like that. So I think, like just coming back, that you got that extra hour. And that's one thing that's amazing to think of. What could you do in that extra hour? I know you're a person on, there's no season.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. We had this conversation not so long ago. So, when I used to work into the city or miles away from here, let's put it that way, 2 hours on the road every single day, right? So 2 hours going to work, 2 hours coming back home. So you got 4 hours there, take an hour for lunch, so you got another 5 hours there. So you're automatically looking at 25 hours a week minimum of not doing anything, right? So now that I have my own business for the last few years, I gain all that back. So I'm gaining 25 hours a week minimal on top of my 40 hours of work. So I'm at like 65 plus everything else where, I can go to work in my underwear if I wanted to, you know what I mean? I can just roll out and get into my office and start hammering it, early in the morning until late at night. So yeah, I mean, that extra hour, it's not really an extra hour. It's just like I said, it's a time reset. That's all it is. Whether it's 5 to 6 or 5 to 4, you're waking up at 6 o'clock, you're waking up at 5 o'clock, or you're waking up at 7 o'clock. So it's still the same. It's what you do in those hours. So you just got to maintain those. You're not really gaining anything the way I look at it. It's just maintaining the hours of work that you automatically put in and have been putting in. That's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, no, and I love that perspective because like I completely disagree, and that's what I love about the show and love having conversations with you because I think for me I'm more productive. I think there's studies out there saying that hey, if you get more sun, it's going to be better for you. That's why we take like vitamin D supplements or we go out and get sun and stuff like that. So for me, I like wake up when the sun's out. That's just, and there's things that you can do because I've seen on Amazon you can buy gadgets to like mimic, like the sunrise and things like that.
True.
Right. So for me, I'm a big I love the extra hour. So it's for me being able to go ahead and take that walk or do whatever I kind of
Yeah.
want. Maybe I'll go for a workout in the morning, and just having that for me, because like last night we went to bed at like 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. and that's unheard. We go to bed at 9 o'clock normally, right? So having that different mindset, do their education, do your research. Jeff, I want to ask you a question here because it got me thinking for your education.
Hmm.
What does your education look like, whether it be on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, for specifically for our industry?
Oh, well, let's see here. I don't know. I get all these magazines all the time. I mean, it's like Progressive Railroad. I'm always reading every single day on that. I'm looking at the industry. I get reports every single morning. So I'm just looking at the headlines, what really sparks my interest, and I'll read that article, or I'll on LinkedIn. Many of my peers, friends, associates, they put out some great content. I'll read that as well, because I try to get a very good perspective. It's not that everybody is right and everybody is wrong, but it's just getting a wealth of knowledge and then creating your own thoughts based upon all the articles and the information that you're absorbing. So that's what I try to do every single day. How about you? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a big person on like like you said, like getting reports, getting articles, and just understanding what's relevant. I think, like I said, like for me, I like to kind of clog it out because we can. Hey, if there's issues in drayage and things like that, even though you might not do drayage, that's going to affect your over the road stuff, right? So
Oh,
it's really
yeah.
important to have those conversations. And I love to kind of get feedback from customers. I think they're the better
Oh,
educators,
yes.
and vice versa, right? Because so many times I know Jeff, you do this as well, like talking with other even customers you don't even work with, like, hey, what are you guys kind of seeing, what's kind of going on with you guys, your supply chain? Is business as usual? Do you have any issues with potential strikes or anything like that? And kind of having that ability to kind of have a genuine conversation, and that's what's important to me. It's not like, hey, I'm using this to kind of get in with you. It's like, no, I just this is an article, just like I would send to you, Jeff, or send to Dan or DJ or anybody. It's just,
Right.
okay, what do you guys think about this? And kind of go from there.
Exactly. Just want to get that feedback. There's no right and wrong. I mean, you
Mhm.
can disagree, you can agree to disagree, like we just did, right? That's fine. I mean, that's what makes long-term business relationships, when you have those type of relationships, that you can, like I said, you can agree to disagree, and there's not going to be a disgruntled individual on either side. It's that you're learning how each other works, and you're accepting them for what they say and what they do, right? Um, and it makes you a better person that way. I mean, you can't just shutter people out and put blinds over your eyes. It's just not going to help you in this industry or move you forward. So, just go into things with an open mind. You really have to, and then take your experience and adapt that to what you've read and saw and heard, and then that's going to create who you are. And that's what's great about content. You can write whatever you want. It's a feeling. Hopefully it's not like an emotional feeling, but it's a feeling based on something, like I said, you read, data, heard, something like that, and then you create that content based on that. And I think a lot of podcasters and a lot of the people out there who put that content out go about it the same way, that they're using something in order to put something out there.
Yeah, and it's I'm actually reading books on that right now, where it's like, you find what your target market is. Who do you? It was kind of cool because one of the books I read for like opening a YouTube channel or any kind of content creation is like, okay, imagine that the target audience like you want to go after. What do they use? What do they look like? And things like that. And because when people say, hey, I'm just gonna make a podcast, or I'm gonna do content create for everybody, that's when you're gonna lose, because you're not gonna
Mhm.
hit it with everybody. Like it's
No.
like, even for us, like I wouldn't imagine that somebody who works in retail, like, not outside of logistics, like a retail worker would like really care about our stuff. But at the end of the day, we've kind of got the kind of target market of what we kind of want to do and the value that we bring to other people. So
Sure.
you're so right by saying that, Jeff.
Yeah, something also, Ryan, is that my whole career, I wanted to learn a little about a lot of things from cradle to grave in the supply chain. I surely didn't want to pigeonhole myself. And when you say niche, there's a lot of people that do pigeonhole because they stayed in one vertical within the supply chain, and that's all they know. They're an SME and CPG. That's it. They haven't gone on the retail, the chemical, flatbed steel or anything like that because they just weren't exposed to that. So when you say you're trying to create a niche or something podcast for, a specific area of the industry, it really all depends on how much knowledge that you have upstairs and where you've worked and who you've worked with. Mine is vast across many different sectors. So I'm not an expert in any one part of it because that's too narrow-minded for myself. I wanted to just be able to have an intelligent conversation with somebody. If something happened to be said or asked, I can go and talk about it. And if I'm not where I need to be, I will dig in and get that knowledge to get back to that individual to tell them something more than what I know. So, but it's a shame in the industry. I think that hurts supply chain leaders and logistics leaders if they really pigeonhole themselves, unless that's what they want to do. You want to stay in the automotive and you want to put 40 years in it. Great, man. Go ahead, do it. But if you want to learn about the industry, man, broaden your horizons, man. Look at everything out there so you have an understanding how everything clicks and moves and why people do the things that they do.
And I think that's like extremely important, because like we kind of always kind of focus, hey, go into your niche. And, you've got to understand, okay, so you're driving down the road, you see gas is up, like whatever it is, right? And then you should have that curiosity to understand why, and then kind of go from it like backwards and kind of reverse engineer. But, it's, at the end of the day, that's what I love about our industry, and I just love sales in general. There's no formula to it. Everybody has a different recipe, and everybody has a different thing of success. And my chocolate cake recipe will be different from your chocolate cake recipe. And that's what I love about our industry.
Makes things great.
Exactly. But and you know what? And the cool thing is that, like I could be hearing about yours and I'll be like, hey, maybe I'm gonna add a little nutmeg because I heard Jeff puts that in his thing, and it's just you just kind of want to keep on evolving and kind of be a better person, whether it be professionally or personally. So I really love the points that you kind of made, Jeff, because it's so true. You stay authentic, stay genuine, and you be a student always, right? So
always.
All right. So I think
absolutely.
Awesome. And I want to thank you this morning for coming out this morning because, we could have definitely talked about different topics. And I love when we kind of freestyle it and kind of go off on different things because we didn't plan anything. And that's what I truly love. So I want to thank you so much, Jeff, for coming out this morning. I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning for the podcast. We're going to hit the replays again at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern time on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Join us tomorrow for an amazing jam-packed episode. And this week we got some special guests for you. So you definitely want to tune in and make sure that you check us out. All right. Take care, everybody.
All right, man. Have a great day, guys.
Centurion Trucking. Our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career today.